gotta understand the enemy's not the man, it's the mindset. Killing my people that's in a similar to COVID. No sense. How you take a life without a motive? Tired of seeing protest, dying to see progress. For the person that'll win in the end, doesn't really matter what's the color of the skin. When the bullets scatter, when they bleed from within, haven't we shed more blood than these tears?
So, Kristin, I'm gonna pick on you because you haven't talked a lot. But, and you know, this probably comes from my own biases and my own experience of like being a single person and a single woman, and that need of like, I have to be the strong, independent woman. And I'm wondering if you have the same experience, just because I know that we're in the same life season, and how that might affect you as a Black woman living in that space of having to feel like I have to be strong and independent.
I don't know any other way. Being strong has kind of just been a way of life, even from just growing up. I was, not that anybody really instilled it in me. I think part of it's my personality, but when I think all the way back to the mask that you asked, part of it feels like it's a personality trait, but then you know, you have like that strength mask, because I do live in a predominantly white community, and so I'm aware that every time I walk into a conversation with somebody that doesn't look like me, I'm carrying the entire Black culture on my shoulders. And so the experience that they have with me is going to help the experience with the next person that looks like me. So I don't know if weakness, so to speak, is like an option. I have to be put together. I have to be well presented. I have to speak clearly. That's just the way it's always really been for me. And I think that presentation scares off men. So I don't know, Black or white. It's you know, just you know, that kind of thing. It might be why I'm single. I don't know. It's like, yeah, I don't. Yeah, it's a. Yeah, do I want to be protected? Do I want to be, you know, sheltered by, you know, in a relationship? Of course, but as of right now, I have to do that for myself. And so it's kind of unique when I think about who I am as a Black woman in this day and age, being single. It is well, it's actually kind of hard to. That question is kind of difficult to answer. I do think of it in the frame of like relationships and like motherhood. I was thinking about that during our conversations just before, because I fear getting into a relationship with a Black man because he might not come home one day. I fear getting into a relationship with a white man or somebody that's non-Black because I'll be chastised for it. I fear having a child that is Black because they might not come home one day, or I might have to share all of the fears and angers that you guys have talked about, or even a biracial child. Like I sit with those fears and I'm like, I don't even know what I want for my life next because of everything that I see. It's like, am I good being alone? Is this the best decision for me right now? Or do I, whichever direction I go into, I'm going to walk into a fight. It's just picking which fight I want to walk into.
So I know that there's the strong, independent woman, right? There's the strong woman. But for you Black women in the room, there's also the angry Black woman stereotype. And I would love for you guys to talk about your experiences with that, if you've ever encountered that, and how you feel like you have to act so people don't.
Well, even just being too emotional, not even angry, but just being too emotional. Last year, June 16th, my sister passed away of a heroin overdose. Okay. I left behind 3 beautiful children. The cops arrived on the scene. And here's me just finding my sister. Mind you, I just had drove all night long from North Carolina coming home from vacation. And I knew something wasn't right. So we decided that we were going to drive through the night to get home by the morning. Just got home, got a call from my sister, found out the news. And like I said, the cops were on the scene. And obviously I was a little bit emotional. There's my dead sister on her bed. Anyways, he told me I had to leave the room. As I was laying over her, he told me I had to leave the room. And he put his hand on my shoulder and I went like this. I got up, he had me by my arm to try to escort me out of her room. But I wasn't done yet, grieving over my sister during that time. And I punched her door, I punched her bedroom door. After that, it was kind of a blur. The next thing I knew, I was that angry black woman that, they just had to do something about, because she was getting a little too emotional, a little too angry. And I was angry, I was emotional. Next thing I know, I was being handcuffed, bent over her couch, shoulders up to here. He was taking me outside. We were walking down the driveway. She has a pretty lengthy driveway, and I had slipped. And the cuffs, man, they were tight, and I slipped, arms all the way up. And here I am like, what is wrong with you? I was like, this is my dead sister, sir. What did I do that you are handcuffing me right now? I was like, and I was angry. I was like, you don't even know who I am. My brother's on the same force with you. What is wrong with you? I was like, are you not human? What? I was livid. And he was like, I don't care who you are. You're going to jail for assaulting a police officer. So he puts me in the cop car, shuts the door. Mind you, the heat's on, windows are all the way up. I am past the point of emotional and angry at this point, screaming and carrying on in the cruiser, and my brother comes. The parole officer one. I have one in the parole line. I have one that's an officer. He comes. Obviously, I get let out of the vehicle, but you know what? Had it not been for my white adopted brother that day, I would have been going to jail on the day of my sister's death, because I was an emotional black woman and he didn't know who I was. I was just an emotional, angry black woman. So there is a stereotype. There is a stereotype, and it's unfortunate because I try not to be that every day. Like, I don't want him to think that, or this or that of me, or that I'm carrying myself in that way. So, you almost have to beat the stereotype. You have to beat the perspective. It's like a constant every day. You have to keep yourself put together. You got to have your hair done. It can't be too nappy, can't be too crazy protective hairstyle. Like, it's a daily struggle, Don't get in an argument with this person, or you got to calm yourself down, Katie, before you start the argument with this person, because you don't want them to get that, so it's a lot of checking yourself every day in every situation.
I can completely concur. I mean, that is life. That every single day is, like I said, especially during a time like this. And when, you are watching this, you're experiencing it in one way. So you're experiencing all this stuff as a mother and as a black person in America. And then you have to go and you have to sit and you have to listen to it being completely dismissed or not addressed or misunderstood or just anything. And if you say anything, I mean, I have been told, okay, Deanna, calm down. I've had people say that to me, and it's like, you have never seen me not be calm, really. There's a level I can get to that I've never shown anyone at work. So I think it's very dismissive and it's condescending. It's very prevalent around here. And I think that people feel very comfortable either not addressing you at all or addressing you in a very parental kind of a way. Calm down. Like, don't tell me to calm down. Like, I am so calm. And I often think, you know, if these roles were switched and you were the only person of color or the only Black person in a lot of these rooms, this is a travesty. Like, this is really bad. It's really bad. It's really, really bad. So I definitely feel like people in the community in general are, you know, they're good. We have a great community and all that, but do I feel like I have to switch and all that? Absolutely. Yes, or you will completely not be heard. And so some of the things that you have to deal with are people expecting less of you than you can deliver. People completely underestimating you, dismissing you, feeling like just misunderstanding in general. I think it's very, 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 very prevalent, and it's very hurtful. You know, it's super hurtful to be sitting there and you're like, you should know better than to be saying these things or to be, you know, not saying something. So,
Christina, how do you feel hearing those stories as a white woman sitting here listening to that?
I mean, I think it speaks to probably how I feel about having to defend my son. It's ridiculous, you know what I mean? To even think that you have to, these are things I've never thought about. I've never had to think about that. I've never had to think about being viewed as, you know, just emotional. I mean, I could probably say with much certainty that if I were in the situation that Kathryn was in, that I probably wouldn't have been handcuffed. You know what I mean? And it's insane. It's sad. It really makes me sad, like, to hear that. And I mean, obviously it's not my reality, but it's so many people's, and it's 2020. Like, why is this still happening?
And just to jump in on that again, I think too, when we talk about this perception as being an angry Black woman, at this age, I'm an angry Black woman. I'm an angry Black woman, and I've earned the right to be. What I do with the anger is what's important. How you channel that anger into, again, that feminine energy and all of that anger. You know, you can channel that into something positive, but I'd be lying to say that, you know, it's not there. You are angry. You know, you're sitting up here watching people be murdered in front of you. Righteous anger is how we should be feeling as a country. Should not just be us. You know, we all should be angry at this. And yeah, absolutely. Because we don't all, like I said the other day at the Juneteenth thing, we don't have to all own this. We all inherited this. We all inherited it. Some of us, though, need to make sure we're not perpetuating it, you know. But I think in this community right now, we're talking about it so much. And as a Black woman, I have said to people recently, I'm trying not to be an angry Black woman, but you need to understand that I am. And I'm not going to be silent about it at all. Like, we're going to talk about it. And I don't think it always has to be a terribly well, it is a painful subject, but there's healing in the conversation. So, you know, we just need to have it. We just need to continue to have them. And I'm heartened by this and all of the different efforts that we're seeing of people just talking about the thing rather than acting like, you know, it doesn't exist, or that's Black people talking about racism again. And, you know, yeah.
Maria, I heard you nodding. Heard you over here.
Yeah, I mean, I have, as I alluded to earlier, I've encountered it with my son in the school system. And going in, you know, my mom let my friends tell it was a little Black lady inside a white lady's body. She was a fierce to be reckoned with. She was 5 foot and she was like 100 pounds wet. But I learned it from my mom when she would come into the schools and she would talk to the teachers, because I was a good student, but I had a mouth. So, but if I could explain it to my mom, and she felt like the teacher was disrespectful to me. Now, I still had to be held accountable for my disrespect, but then she would go to the teacher like, hey, you're not gonna talk to her like that. That was rude, it was disrespectful, and so I do that for my sons. Now, my older son, I didn't have to do that for. My middle son, I'm in there quite often for him, but that is because he will stand up for himself and he won't back down. And when the teachers come at him aggressively and, he's like, hold on, can I explain to you what was what was happening, what was said? And the teachers are like, no, you, da 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 da. And he's like, okay, hold on, time out. No.
That's my middle son too. Must be middle son.
You know what? He was born that way. Like
the middle son.
Yeah,
will
sure
not be
is.
intimidated.
You said it too.
Yes.
Roman.
Maybe.
It's middle son
I've
syndrome.
only found
It
one.
sure is.
But my mother was a perfect model for me in how to go in and how to talk to these teachers. And so for my son, I have practically memorized the anti-bullying policy and their disciplinary policy of the school handbook, because if you can go in there and you have their words to give to them, what can they say? It's not about right or wrong or what's fair and what's unfair. It's what standard did you set for the entire school, for every child here, white, black, yellow, red, it doesn't matter. Every child is held to this standard. So why does my son have to be different? He has an IEP for ADHD, and the school superintendent decided that she was going to sit in on one of the meetings. And she said, well, Josiah has to learn, and Josiah has to this and has to that. And I said, time out. Josiah has what's legally termed as a disability. No, he's not missing a limb. No, he's not wearing a hearing aid. No, he's not sitting in a wheelchair, but he has a disability. Whether you can see it physically or not, it's there. So yes, while Josiah has to learn these skills, what are you putting into place to help him? Because that's what school is. They come here to learn for their mind educationally, but also emotionally and socially. As you were saying, I want the teacher to treat my child as I do, respectfully, with love and compassion and grace. Because just like you have a bad day, just like you're allowed to have an attitude, just like you're allowed to have your feelings, he can too. And if he voices them in a respectful manner, what can you do but respect it? And here's the thing that I try to get them to understand. An escalated adult cannot de-escalate an escalated child. Somebody has to be level. Somebody has to have some sense about themselves. And I expect it to be the adult.
Right, channeling that anger.
So that's a perfect opportunity to model for him. How do we handle, okay, I acknowledge your emotions. Now how do we deal with this? How do we work through this? That's a perfect teaching moment as a teacher. And I use those as a parent. So I expect the teacher to use them, because you done paid for all this education. Put it to use. And my children have had good teachers, so I don't complain about the teachers. But I also, as I said, I hold my child accountable. I hold myself accountable as a parent, but I hold the teacher accountable. There's a level of decency and in order, and there's a way to handle things. And but I mean, and as I said, my mom was a good model, because again, I was a good child, but I had a smart mouth, and it got me in a lot of trouble. I was always in the principal's office. Mr. Atwater used to say, Marie, just sit over there and don't say nothing. Don't say nothing at all. So I remember what it was like for me. And one of the things that made me so passionate about standing for my children in the school system was because another person initiated a fight. I tried to avoid it. It didn't happen. So then I had to put them in their place physically. And I walked out of class and I went, this was during like homeroom at the beginning of the day. And so then I went to class. Well, nobody told but her best friend. She went and told the principal. I'm not going to say this lady's name, but to this day, I show her respect, but I will never respect her because I was an AB student. This student was a straight A student. I had been in and out of the office from my mouth. She had never been in the office. So I got called down to the office at Malabar, and this principal who looks like me told me that she was going to suspend me for 2 weeks. And when I told her what happened, I said, well, can I tell you what happened? So she listened. She decided she didn't want to believe me. So I said, ask the entire class. So she went and asked the entire class, and they corroborated my story. I'm not going to say what I always say. This person came back into the office and said, well, I'm not going to suspend you. And I said, why? What changed? So the person that I got into a fight with was white, straight A student, had never been to the office. And that is why I didn't get suspended, because she didn't want to suspend her. She didn't want that on her school record. But you didn't mind putting it on mine. And in that moment, I learned that the school system, the people that are there to teach me, to nurture me academically, and to protect me, not all of them would, whether they look like me or not. And so when my children went to school, they won't be subjected to that. As long as I have breath in my body, I will stand for them, I will fight for them, I will advocate for them. And any child, it's not fair, and it teaches them that they are not valuable enough. And that's a lie.
We've talked a lot about sons. I'm curious to hear from you guys about raising daughters in this kind of world, in this kind of life we are in right now. How do you even go about that?
I would like to know. I have an 11-year-old and a 3-year-old, so I don't know. I mean, it doesn't, for me right now, it hasn't been as scary. I mean, I don't know why. Maybe it is just because of the news and the things that you see, and so I would probably like to hear what other people with older daughters maybe have to say.
I have a daughter who's 28 or 29 or something. I think she's 28, and my daughter's tough. She's a tough girl. Like, would you say?
Yes, she is.
She's really tough, and I think that the only times that I have ever really seen her be not so tough is worrying about her brothers. And she worries a lot about her brothers, and now she's married and she has a son who just turned a year old. And I think I've watched her go through a lot this spring, even, quarantined and all of that, because you have to add everyone's mental state from that on top of all of this. So that kind of dictates how we're all dealing with what it is that we've seen. But for her, I think she realizes that she's turning into her mom and is going to worry about her sons. And I think she's a phenomenal mom, and her husband's a phenomenal father. But I think that as young people, they're both in the military, and they've both made good decisions in their lives. But I think that both of them, particularly she, would feel like this is scary. That's what I would say. This is very scary for her, because she's sitting at it, looking at it differently than just a sister. She's looking at it as a wife. That could be my husband. And so that's different because they live in North Carolina and there's no other family there. So I think it's a different level of stress for her. And then with her son, I think she knows what he's in for. And I don't think she's disillusioned about it at all. And I'm glad that she is the type of person that she is, because she is so strong and she's super resilient. But the vulnerability in her is her family. And so I just, I think growing up, there was never a question in terms of like, she's going to be fine. Like wouldn't you say, she's going to be fine? Yeah. No one ever worried about her. No one ever worried about her. She would be fine. And it's almost a disservice to her in a way. But the stats were the boys. Pardon me.
I worry about my daughter. She might be turning 3 years shortly, but I say she's got the best of both worlds. That's how I look at it. And being biracial, but the world may not see it that way. So just raising her to, one, see that she does have the best of both worlds. Two, to know that the world may not see it as she has the best of both worlds. And it's hard because, she lives for her brother. She's the youngest. Those are her 2 older brothers. Like her brothers, her boys, that is her. Those are her boys, they're nobody else's. Those are True's boys, and you got, her black brothers, and then you have her white father. So it's hard to instill in her a world where it's black and white. That's very hard for me to do with having the family that I have. But I know I have to instill that in her, because then I'm not preparing her for how the world may have her view it. You know what I'm saying? So that's the most difficult part for my girl. And, as a biracial woman, she's going to get it from both ways. She might not be good enough for either one because she's mixed, even though we're all mixed. I personally believe if y'all do your DNA test, we are all mixed. We are all mixed. So, but that's for another conversation. But yeah, that's the hardest part for my little girl, and to have her understand that and know that and prepare her for that. And me being her black mother, it's hard.
What's one thing that you guys hope people watching this takes away from what they've seen today?
I think for me, I've had a lot of conversations, like with my sister who has kids, just at how different our realities are. Like that the things that I worry about are not the things that she's ever had to worry about. I would hope that people watching this would be open to realize that just because it's not your reality doesn't mean it's not a reality. I think that's 95% of the problem right now, is that the back and forth so much is because they don't see it, they don't experience it, so it's not happening, it's the funniest things, because it's like, but it's not happening to you because you're white, like you're not proving a point. So for me, I think it would just be that as a mother, even as a father, you love your children, and these are things that all of us as parents of brown children are worried about, of black children too, especially. Like, these are our concerns, and they should be yours. And until that happens, until you can acknowledge that this isn't going to get better.
And that we are truly better together. I want the world to know that we are truly better together. To look at people and see people.
That's what I was going to say.
Not see their skin color. No, look at their character. Look at the intent of the person. Right. Don't look at that as the little black boy or the little black girl, or the black or the white boy and the white girl. Just, see through the lens of love, at the end of the day, and sit down and have conversations if you're struggling with that. If you're struggling because you have this perspective and this perception up, speak with somebody that you don't fear as much, or that you can talk to, and that Won't become the angry black woman on you or the guy, you know, and it's time, there's no room for the divide mentality anymore in 2020. There's no room for it. It is time to unite. It is time for it. It's time to hold hands. It's time to have that dream that Martin Luther King, it's time, you know, to sit down and to be as one and not, well, you're black and I'm white. Well, you don't understand me. Well, you don't understand me. There's no time for that anymore. There's no room for that anymore. And that's what the world needs to know. It's time to be different and be the change that we all want to see. Everybody, whether you're black, white, red, yellow, whatever, it's time to do that. And to channel your anger, you know, when we touched on that, you know, with what happened with my sister, I was very angry. So, you know, I'm going to channel that. Well, you know what? Listen, for black, white, whoever ODs in their house and they have children, there needs to be trauma response teams. There needs to be psychologists on these calls. That's how I'm channeling my anger. I'm not going to go out and go shoot that cop because I'm angry. I would never do that. I'm going to decide to do reform in the laws to benefit everybody, not just because of what happened to me personally as a black woman. No, this can't happen to anybody.
That's right.
And that's all I got.
I don't know how to top that. So, all right. Well, seriously, guys, ladies, thank you. I think I can speak for everyone when I say thank you for your honesty and your vulnerability and for this conversation. I feel transformed. I hope you guys feel good.